Hi guys, I'm Dan, this is Kai. We are the directors at Crescent Mortgages. Today we are talking all things limited company directors. So if you're a shareholder and a director of a limited company and you're looking to achieve a mortgage at some point in the future, then this video is for you. We'll talk about how the lenders will assess your income relative to other forms of income and also kind of what kind of track record and income you might need to achieve the mortgage that you're hoping for. Before we jump into it, just to remind you that we are not YouTubers, we are mortgage brokers. So if you have any specific questions about your circumstances, which obviously will differ from one person to the next, get in contact with us. You can either head to the website, give us a call, drop us an email, and we'll be able to run through and kind of tailor the advice to you specifically. Let's jump into it. Limited company directors. We are one.
We are them.
So we've faced the challenges, and we do understand that it isn't as straightforward as if you were just a normal employee. We get that, but that's not to say that it's not achievable. It is more than achievable as long as you know what you need to do and kind of the best way to approach it, which obviously we can kind of guide you on. First of all, just to touch on, there are a few different types of self-employment, aren't there?
Yeah, there are.
There are. We're specifically talking about limited company directors today. The others, I guess, are... I'm giving you a good one.
Yeah, thanks. Sole traders or those in a partnership. Those are often classed as self-employed as well. We have a slightly older video on that, which to be fair is probably still relevant.
There are some similarities, but not everything.
But limited company directors,
this is for you.
Are probably they're for you, and I think they're probably the more complicated.
Slightly, yeah, I would say, yeah, they can be a little bit
for understanding.
Complex.
I would say, not necessarily for criteria, but for understanding.
Yeah, that's true. Now, in terms of this is actually a real point of contention with some clients. What makes you a limited company director? So, and what we mean by that is what makes you self-employed. So if you have kind of 20 to 25% share of the limited company or more, so 50%, 100%, but kind of anything from 20, 25 up, and you're paying yourself a dividend, they are going to class you as a self-employed limited company director. Even though you technically put that you're employed on your tax return or some of the income is PAYE, they will treat you as self-employed, which does obviously change the assessment. Now, in terms of why that changes things, I guess they're looking at a track record rather than the most recent income, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. It's the history of what you've done more so because there's that. It's history. They want to know that have you done it right for the last couple of years, for example. They're looking at your overall picture here, not just I work for this person and I get a salary. Yeah.
So rather than the last 3 monthly pay slips, normally they're going to take an average of your last 2 years' income from your full set of accounts. Some might need more, 1 or 2 can take less, but generally 2 years average is what you're looking at, unless the income has dropped, in which case they might just take the most recent. What income are they going to look at for a self-employed limited company director? So what income will most lenders look at?
So most of them will go salary and dividends. That is your bread and butter, what most lenders will do. So the salary you paid yourself and the dividends you took through that year.
And then an average of the last 2 years.
And generally an average of the last 2 years.
Now that works for a lot of people. The downside to that is if your company made a profit of 150,000 and you took out a combined salary and dividends of 100,000, then those lenders will only use £100,000 income for you towards affordability, even though you could have taken 150,000 out of the business. So because of that, there's a handful of lenders, some good lenders, who rather than look at your salary and dividends, will look at your
net profit. So
salary and net profit.
Yeah, your salary and net profit.
After tax. Give them the...
After corporation tax.
Yeah. Is that it?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Again, average of 2 years generally.
Yeah. So that way, even though you didn't take all of the profit out of the business, they're allowing you to use all of that towards affordability because ultimately you could have taken it out had you wanted to. So for those lenders, if you're not taking out all of the profit each year from your limited company, but you are trying to maximize how much you can borrow on your mortgage, then we would probably look at those slightly, not specialists, but those lenders that kind of cater to that criteria, because they are normally going to lend you more than a lender that will just look at your salary and dividends. If you were a sole trader, they would normally just ask for your tax calculation and tax year overviews, also known as SA 302s. They're basically the documents that come from HMRC or your accountant confirming your total income, how much tax you paid. It's as simple as that, which will normally registered from April to April of each year, so kind of the financial year. If you're running a limited company, they may ask to see that as well, but they're going to be more focused on
the company accounts. They're going to want to see the company accounts. It doesn't matter if you're using the profit or not, they're always going to want to see the company accounts because they need to check that the business is doing okay. They're not going to pick it all apart or
they're not trying to catch you out.
No, they're there to make sure that, you know, if you have taken, let's say £100,000 income in the previous example, you've taken 10,000 salary and 90,000 in dividends, they want to make sure that you could have taken 90,000 dividends and you haven't taken more out of the business than the business made.
Yeah.
Because you can do that, as you may well know as a limited company director, but a lender doesn't like that.
No, for obvious reasons. If the company's making £50,000 a year and you're pulling out £100,000 from the business, obviously that's not sustainable. And lenders will either use the lower profit figure, or they may not be comfortable lending at all because they're not comfortable with the way that you're kind of conducting and taking money out of the business. So they will just want to look at the basic performance of the business, make sure there's no significant liabilities that are going to have an impact moving forwards. But on the whole, as long as everything's ticking over, you're not taking out more than you're earning, generally we don't see too many issues, do we? And again, they'll look at the last 2 years' accounts to kind of generally take an average. I think there were a couple of final kind of miscellaneous points we wanted to cover. Do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay, fine. How old your accounts are. So your accounts normally need to be done within the last 18 months. They may not be due for whatever reason. Your tax year obviously isn't 18 months. You have that window after your year's finished to submit your taxes. But 18 months is what a lender needs. Any older than that, it's too old.
And they're going to need you to have done the most recent. The next one, so obviously during the pandemic, there were kind of COVID grants handed out from the government towards employed and self-employed people. Obviously the SEISS scheme, which stands for...
I don't know.
I knew you would know that.
The government grant.
Self-employed income support scheme. Ultimately, the grants that you were... Sorry to stitch you out there.
2 S's, that's not the second.
SEISS, support scheme, yeah. Up until recently, if you'd taken any grants, it could have quite a big impact on the income that the lender was willing to use, even from your accounts. But we're kind of coming out of the end of that now, where actually, even if you did take grants, most lenders aren't too worried, and they're actually often willing to use that grant as part of your income in each kind of a given year. So that's not so much of an issue anymore. And I guess the final one we wanted to cover, which we probably should have touched on a bit sooner, was if you're a day rate contractor, either running your income through a limited company or potentially, depending on IR35, through an umbrella company, a lot of lenders will just assess your day rate, won't they? Yeah,
you may fall in this bracket, but you may also fall out of that bracket. And if you don't fall in this bracket, it might actually be easier potentially. So if you're a day rate contractor, we've got another video on it that would have been done at some point last year that will still be relevant. And probably just get in touch. There are specialist or niche things that work for you, and some of the high street lenders will assess you in a much easier manner potentially.
I think the main point we're making is that even if you're a day rate contractor on a decent income and you're running that through a limited company, there are lenders that will just look at your day rate rather than the track record of the limited company, which can be beneficial for you in terms of you don't need as long, and they may be willing to lend you more as well, because the actual limited company profit would look lower than the day rate that you're receiving with your contract. So again, watch the video, give us a call about that one. Anything else?
No.
Okay, great. So yeah, that's everything. As always, give us a call if you have any questions, or send us a message. Head over to the website, leave something in the comments. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.